Recently, a news reported by Eastern Daily Press said that more old buses were sent to Norwich from other cities. Since other cities have some new buses, it means that it may cause air pollution in Norwich. Will it be a big problem to the environment in the future? What is the public opinions on this situation? The two big bus companies in Norwich both sent these old buses which were dumped by other cities to Norwich. Some of these old buses were already 14 years old, and the oldest bus is 18 years old now. People hold different opinions on how to deal with these old buses.
Yes, we have got an air pollution problem in Norwich, and buses are part of the problem. On Castle Meadow, for example, where a lot of buses pass through on the way to the railway station, there is an air pollution problem, and their nitrogen dioxide levels exceed the European limit several times a year. We'd like to see clean vehicles rather than using diesel and petrol vehicles and buses. We'd like to see electric and hydrogen cell fuel vehicles. And obviously that's going to take a while to come in. But the bus companies have been very slow in cleaning up their bus emissions. And as you've seen from the local press, one of the bus operators, called First, has been sending some of its old buses from some cities in the country to Norwich, which is really unacceptable. A lot of health problems now have been identified associated with air pollution from vehicles. And scientists reckon that the levels for emissions should actually be lower than stated at present, and so actually much more is going to have to be done to clean up bus vehicles. What we would like to see is something called zero carbon vehicles. The buses will run on fuel such as electric and hydrogen, and they'll be completely clean.
Norwich on many days does not meet the air quality requirement, and so having buses which are not as efficient as they could be is a real problem. And so particularly on days where it's hot and you have ozone and maybe it's very busy with other traffic, this will be a problem. And it also sounds like a missed opportunity that Norwich could have benefited from some new buses.
Us as a company, we have the newer vehicles, so the vehicles themselves have the top rate of emissions. In fact, I think some of the really new coaches they barely emit any emissions at all, and it's been a hugely expensive process for us. Each coach is best part of £250,000, so they're not cheap. But I think as a business, whilst I'm a huge environmentalist personally, from a business point of view, we're in business. We have to make a profit. We have to buy what we can afford to buy. So we can't go and replace every vehicle in our fleet with a brand new vehicle because we couldn't afford to, and it would bankrupt us. So I think it's a gradual process of accepting that change is coming and building in a policy to get newer vehicles. So that's our process at the moment, replacing the older vehicles with newer as and when we can afford them. I think the majority of congestion and pollution comes from private cars. And if you look at the number of cars that are on the road going into any major town or city, the vast majority of them will have one person in them. The vast majority of them will be parked up all day long doing nothing, and then they'll drive home again. And if there was a really efficient, cheap, reliable public transport service into all the major cities, I think people will migrate from cars into public transport, and the problem will be solved.
If bus companies buy new vehicles to replace old buses, people need to choose a risk of serious air pollution or a higher price of bus ticket. There are two different voices from Norwich residents.
For me, it's better to be cheaper because I want to go just from A and B, and I don't care if have a much bigger luxury or not.
Wouldn't mind paying a bit more if it went towards getting new vehicles, yeah.
you are willing to pay more for the ticket?
Yeah, as long as it's not too much more.